All right, you guys, I get that we're speaking live and a lot of you are going to be watching this on video, and yet I want to know that I'm talking to the right people. So who wants to make a lot more sales? Put your hand up, say yes. Awesome. Who wants to make a massive impact in the world? Put your hand up, say yes. Thank you guys, thank you very much. And who wants to have more confidence the next time you get on a stage so you can truly rock a stage? Who would like that, say yes. And by the way, as one of my first mentors said, if this is too much work for you, your life is going to suck. So I want to share with you how I went from being a struggling entrepreneur who made a total of $2,000 in 6 months. Does anyone think $2,000 in 6 months is a lot of money? No, good. To using the power of selling from stage to do $96,000 in 90 minutes. Who would be interested in learning that? You're also going to learn how one presentation I wrote made $500,000 in sales for my business, but more importantly, how you can duplicate that and write that kind of presentation for your coaching business. So welcome. I do want to give a quick caveat. This presentation is not about being a public speaker and getting paid a check to speak. There's kind of two worlds in speaking out there right now. There's keynote speakers and they get paid a check. And then there's coaches who sell coaching packages. It's called selling from stage. If you want to be a keynote speaker, you can make maybe $5,000 or $10,000. Above that, you're starting to compete with athletes, you're starting to compete with politicians, and it's really hard to get booked. As a relative unknown, you can do $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a speech as a coach. And also, like we were talking about this earlier, if you are a keynote, you get on stage for an hour, how much can y'all really change someone's life in an hour? Not a lot. If someone joins your coaching program and you work with them for 6 months or a year, how much can you change a life? A ton. So this is about becoming a coach and making, or whatever business you're in, making massive, massive sales through speaking. Does that sound good to you guys? So welcome. I'm Jase Souder, and this is Speaking for Sales and Impact. More important than what I do, though, is why I do this. And the reason I do this, well, let me ask y'all a question. How many of you believe you were made for something like really big? How many believe if you were working with your ideal client and you had a bunch of them, would you be making a minor or a major impact in their lives? Major. And would you be making a little money or a lot of money? And what would you do with that? Retire a spouse, go on that dream vacation, pay for kids' college, fund the charities you like, fund political action committees that are important to you. If you made a lot more money, wouldn't you be doing a lot more good? And then through your business, wouldn't you be doing a lot more good? And so the reason I do this is I believe that you have a God-given mission, and you can believe in whatever you want. I believe in God. I believe you have a God-given mission only you can do, and it could be fulfilled and funded through your business. And so I believe if I can help you grow your business and 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 you grow your business, together we're going to make the world a better place. Who's on board with that idea? Awesome, cool. So I want to say thank you all for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching online. And you know what? Do me a favor. Turn to someone next to you and say, thanks for being here today. And this room where we're filming, it's filled with other speakers. And you know, you guys look good today. So do me a favor. Turn to the person on your left and say, you look good today. If you're by yourself at home, you know, say it to someone in your house. And now turn to the person on your right and say, well, at least you tried. No, I don't say that. I'm just kidding. Don't say that to them. Sarah took that personal. It wasn't about you. Everyone say, Sarah, you look amazing today. Sarah, you look amazing today. And before I go on, though, I have to say heartfelt thanks to Robert and Action Era and the entire community. It's an honor to be around people who are spending the money and time and dedicating their lives to make the world a better place. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Robert, for putting this together. Thank you, my Action Era community. This is an awesome place to be. So in case you don't know who I am, I'm Jase. I've been speaking for a long time. I'm older than I look. I've been on the news a bunch of times. I've been in movies with a lot of today's thought leaders. I've been published in like 10 best-selling books. I've spoken at places like Guerrilla Marketing Summit. I've spoken at Harvard. And I work with some of today's top thought leaders. Anybody know Matt Basak? You may or may not know him. He's one of today's top internet marketers. Do you know Les Brown? Today, widely regarded today's top motivational speaker. I've worked with him. I worked with Laura Castleman, who's the CEO of JV Zoo. If you're a coach, you want to know JV Zoo. They facilitate $500 million worth of transactions per month selling coaches programs. So I worked with her. She's one of my clients as well. And I'm really blessed. Because I know how to sell from stage, I have time for what's important. And one of the things I love to do is go on mission trips. I've been to Uganda, Nicaragua, and recently I went to Uganda and I bought a bunch of paintings. And when COVID hit, all the tourism there dried up. Like they were literally shooting people if they went in the street during COVID. And so God put it on my heart to start buying paintings from these guys because they had no business coming in. And so what we do is we started importing paintings from Africa and we sell them. We typically keep a painting and then we keep enough money to buy more paintings and we give 100% of the money to charity. And right now, one of the charities we fund is called City of Refuge Ministries, and they're saving kids from being child slaves in Ghana, Africa. And we gave them enough money over the last year. They built a grain mill so they could feed more kids, and they bought a school bus. Who would like it if your business was so big that a side project made tens of thousands of dollars to do good in the world? Who thinks that would be pretty cool? It is awesome. And so that's kind of my heart. The other way I make a difference in the world is I help people like you learn how to grow your business. We do seminars and workshops and trainings to teach people how to sell from stage. And where it all started for me was back in 2001. I'll never forget, I was at a real estate meeting. Like I was a struggling real estate agent, struggling real estate investor. And I'm at our real estate club and we're doing deal of the month. And these two guys are on stage and they're competing for deal of the month. Like they're sharing the deals they did. And the first guy did, he bought and sold a house and he made $50,000. The second guy bought and sold a house and he made $60,000, but he made $10,000 a month for 6 months. So the audience is voting on who has the better deal. And I'll never forget this moment. Maybe you've had a moment like this. I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, I'm every bit as smart as they are. I'm every bit as qualified as they are. I'm as worthy as they are. I'm not making anywhere near the money they are. Anybody here ever feel that way? Like, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but feel like other people are making a lot more impact and a lot more money than you, and you're like, oh, come on, it's my time. Incidentally, by the way, I'd never spent more than maybe $250 on a seminar, and these guys spent $3,000 and $5,000. I'm like, these guys are losers, but meanwhile, they're making $50,000 and $60,000, and I could barely pay my bills. Who's the real? Anyway, so I went to a real estate meeting one day, and I brought my mom because I wanted to get my mom into real estate. She didn't have retirement, and so this guy gets on stage, and he's talking about how to make more money and how to do better in real estate investing, and none of it had to do with real estate investing. It was all how you play the game of life. It was really about changing your subconscious and learning how to sell. And this guy sold the course. It was $1,500, and I'd never spent more than $250. That was like $100,000 to me at the time. And let me pause. Were you waving at me?
Yeah. Go ahead and go over the story.
Are you directing me?
I am.
Can I have my coffee?
You brought your editor here in the audience.
This is a first. This is awesome. Wow. What now? What am I going over?
I love Betsy more than ever now.
You anchored the illusion.
On purpose.
Okay, but you didn't do the placement.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It'll come back. How do you guys want me to pick back up? Just pause and I'll pick back up?
Yeah, give me a second. You were buying the course.
Okay. Yeah.
Just I want to mark that as a blooper reel moment. That's great. Thank you, Betsy.
I wish we got that whole interaction.
Oh, we did. All right, whenever you're ready.
Can we put a sign right here? Just kidding, I love you. Okay, so this guy gets on stage and he talks about how to make more money, and none of it has to do with real estate. It all has to do with how you're playing the game of life, like learning how to shift my subconscious and learning how to sell. And I was like, this dude's talking to me. Have you ever heard a speaker and you're like, this guy's talking to me? I was like, this guy's talking to me. And he sold the course, it was $1,500. And I'd never spent more than like $250 before. And I was like, I got to buy this guy's course. And I stood up to buy his course. And my mom, who was next to me, literally grabbed my jacket and she sat me down and she goes, you're not going to buy it, are you? Now, was my mom trying to hurt me? No. What was she trying to do? Keep me safe. And by the way, I've cleared all these stories with my mom. My mom will be watching this video, I'm sure. You guys, what ineffective people and people who aren't effective entrepreneurs think is that they can get ahead by saying no. What we know as entrepreneurs is the only way to get ahead in life is to say yes and then do what comes next. Part of the reason I tell you this story is I was terrified to spend $1,500. That walk from my seat to the back table, like back then you'd walk to a back table and sign up, that was the longest walk I'd ever made. But in the face of my fear and in the face of my mom's resistance, I got up and I went to the back table and I bought his course. And the reason I share this is that speaker was so compelling and so good from stage that he helped me overcome my fears and buy his course. And when I went to his course, it changed my life. And if he hadn't have been so good on stage, I don't know where I'd be today. Because when I went to that course, it totally changed my life. The most important thing that happened was I discovered personal growth, and I started going to seminar after seminar after seminar after seminar. Anybody else in here a seminar junkie? I am definitely a seminar junkie. You know, I can't overstate it. I really want to land this. Part of the reason I tell this is I was petrified. I had money excuses. I had time excuses. But a speaker got on stage and changed my life that day. And then when I went to his course, it changed my life. And most importantly, it changed the trajectory of my life. And I started going to seminar after seminar. And I'm spending a lot of money. Anybody else spend a lot of money on seminars? And in the middle of going to all these seminars, my mom calls me up and she goes, "Hey, I talked to one of your mentors. We think you've gone to enough seminars and you've spent enough money. Don't you think you've been to enough seminars?" Now, don't raise your hand if they're watching the video in the room with you, or if they're live with you in here, but anyone else have someone in their life like that? Like maybe they're looking at you like this, they got their arms crossed and they're tapping their feet and they're saying, "Hey, haven't you spent enough money on seminars? Hey, when's this thing going to pay off? Hey, you're not allowed to buy anything else until you start making money." By the way, if that's you, blink twice. I'll send help. Or just send us an email. So you guys, but I want you to know something. You're on the right path. And if you're taking notes, write this down. If you empty your pockets into your mind will always fill your pockets. And that's one of the things I learned early on. It's one of the things I live by. If you empty your pockets in your mind will always fill your pockets. And I said, "Mom, I know I'm on the right path. I've got to keep going. This is the journey for me." And so I kept training. I kept going to seminars. Y'all, within 2 years of the first seminar I ever went to, I launched my own seminar company. I started teaching personal growth. In 1 year, I increased my income by 1,000%. I went from $40,000 a year to $400,000 a year. Within 2 years, we were a $750,000 company. Even cooler, I bought a duplex my mom could live in for free. I would give my mom money every month, and I took my mom on the first class vacation of her life, where you like drive up. We were in Mexico, and like you drive up when you get out of your car, they greet you with drinks. It was awesome. And so now my mom has a new question. Now my mom calls me up and she says, "Hey, when's your next seminar?" So I want you seminar junkies to know it pays off if you, this is an important phrase, go deep, not wide. You want to go deep in your training, not wide, and it will pay off. So I just entered my 22nd year of speaking and events. And the reason I'm sharing this, y'all, I wouldn't be here if not for a speaker. And we wouldn't be here if not for a speaker. We're here because Robert has used speaking to get us together in Action Era. And those of you watching at home, you're watching a group of speakers through these Action Era talks. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a speaker. And part of the reason I'm here today is because a speaker changed my life, and it's your turn. And your turn, and your turn, and yours, and yours. It's your turn to take your place in the line of speakers who change lives. And if you don't step up, who's gonna? So speaking's really given me my lifestyle, my life. I have a great life. And can I share with you guys one of the reasons I love speaking? Is that a yes? Yes. I did an event right before COVID, 2019, and this amazing woman was in the audience. And I met Betsy, and we fell in love, and we got married about 1.5 years ago. And for those of you, sorry you guys can't see a picture of her that are watching the video, but for those of you who've seen Betsy in real life, I think if you look at Betsy and you look at me, you could tell I'm really good at speaking and sales. That's harder than you guys have laughed at anything else I said. I'm not sure how I feel about that. That was a bigger laugh than was merited. But anyway, I have this theory: in every great marriage, the woman marries down. So anyway, so I got my wife out of speaking, you guys. Speaking, sales, and event life, speaker life is just amazing. You know, side note on speaker life, because of you guys, when you learn how to sell from stage, you can make so much money so fast and help so many people. It gives you a lot of time off for other stuff. Betsy and I we're in Vancouver right now. We got to flew to Calgary. We had a couples breakthrough event. Got to hang out there a few days. We flew over to Vancouver. We went to a soccer game last night. We're here filming this today, and then we'll fly home. We get to I recommend all speakers work maximum 11 months a year and 3 weeks a month. And frankly, we take a lot more time off than that. When you learn how to sell from stage, you can make a ton of time. Cool or cool? All right, so let's talk about you guys. Are you ready for a return? Have you spent money to start your business? Have you invested in coaching programs? Have you spent money on marketing, sponsorships, but you still don't have enough clients? When you speak, you change 3 things, and it's really exciting. You change your business, you change the world, and you change you. Here's how you change your business. Speaking is the #1 fastest way to grow a business, and what's really cool is it's in demand and it's growing in demand. Pre-COVID, we'd say there was maybe 8,000 stages a month. Now, there's like 8,000 stages a day. Do y'all get you could never reach all the stages that want you? And what's really cool, and by stage, it's any public presentation. It could be YouTube, could be Facebook Live, could be a podcast. My favorite are 3-day events, could be a conference, could be, like where you have a bunch of speakers, like a summit type of thing, whatever it is. There's so many stages out there, you could never reach everybody you want to reach. And typically, it's free or very low cost, and it's high return for your money. And it's how your life-changing message is heard. And here's how you're going to change the world. So you're going to change your business because there's a lot of opportunity. And when you sell from stage, you get to cherry pick clients. You get to charge more if you want to. You get more positioning, more authority, and easier sales. Is this landing for you? Cool. And here's how you change the world. You're not going to make a minor. You're going to make a major impact. And you're not going to just help a few people. You're going to help a lot of people. And it's how your life-changing message is heard. And then, anyone here into personal growth? Like you love, me too, I love to grow. It's how you're going to change, and here's why. Do you guys know all those books and audiobooks and the experts you've been seeing? What if those were your friends? You know, your income's the average of 5 people you hang around with the most. What if those were your 5? So if you're taking notes, you want to write this down. Speakers hang out with speakers. What that means is when you meet someone at an event and you're a speaker and they're a speaker, you meet as peers and friends. You get to connect on a whole different level, and all those people you're looking up to now become your peer group, and that changes your life. The other way you change is you have to be at your best to be a great speaker. Speaking calls you to be your best, and you have to do a lot of inner work in order to rock a stage. So you've got to be your best to be a great speaker. So let's talk about how you guys can sell from stage. And I'm going to unpack this formula I'm about to share with you in the kind of the order that I discovered the formula. It's CC times DD times Y. So it's compelling content times dynamic delivery times you. So that first seminar I went to, I loved it. I fell in love with personal growth, and I went back and I began working for them. I began at the bottom. I worked my way up. I was a roadie. I would carry bags. I would do back of room, anything they needed. I'd set up the lights, the curtains, whatever. I'd run the AV, anything they needed. And I started traveling with this speaker, and I would watch him and I'd watch the other speaker. So what I want to share with you, this is the difference between bad sales, blacklist. You guys know what blacklisted means? It means not invited back. Between snooze fest, people leaving, your business struggling, huge sales, invited back, your business rocking, standing ovations, and multiple 6 and 7 figures. Here's the way I discovered this. We were in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I would watch all the other speakers. And the first speaker got on stage, and he had amazing content. Oh, before we go on, do I have permission to be really straight with y'all, or do you just want fluff? Straight. All right, cool. Who here has amazing content? Like, you have great stuff. That is the road to average, broke, and not making a difference. And part of the reason I'm so passionate about this message, one of our clients just posted on Facebook yesterday. She was watching a summit, and she said it is such, it's like a travesty to see people who have great content, but they don't reach the audience because their delivery sucks. Can I say sucks? Is that all right? Yeah, because their delivery sucks. So this first guy gets up, and it was now 2003, and this guy had cutting edge brain science. But the way he's delivering, he's up on stage, and he's like behind a podium, and he's reading. He's like, and now I would like to share with you how the I don't even know what the dude was saying. I remember thinking to myself, though, this guy's content is so good, it's a crime how bad his delivery is because no one's getting it. And I'm looking around the room, and I see people playing on their phones. This is 2003. Do you guys remember what games we had on our phones back then? It was like Snake. They're like playing Snake and stuff on their phone. And people are tuning out, people are leaving. And at the end of his presentation, I remember he did $3,000 in sales. Then my mentor gets up, and my mentor, frankly, had good content. It wasn't great, it was good. Except my mentor's telling stories, and he's animated, and he's walking around, and people are laughing, and people are literally crying in the audience. And at the end of his presentation, he gets a standing ovation, and then he does $375,000 in sales. And I remember leaving that presentation and thinking to myself, if I want to stick around, I better be funny. Let me put it another way, you guys. Stories and entertainment are the key difference between bombing and huge sales. You cannot logic your way to huge sales. You cannot content your way to huge sales. You guys, just don't be boring. Here's another way to put it. You've got to entertain. Putting on a great presentation is like putting on a one-person play. It's a show. They've actually made a movie about it. Have you all heard of the movie, The World's Greatest Showman? They have never made a movie called The World's Greatest Content Man. And too many of you, thank you for that laugh. I appreciate it. Anyone can get the whole room to laugh. Pros, just one at a time. Sniper laughs. So you guys, I really want you all to get this. If you're getting up and you're just telling content, and by content, let me define that. So you got to do this, your impact, blah, blah. If you're not telling stories, if you're not taking the audience on a journey, you're not making a difference. So I realized I had to do this. So I went on a search for what I call the holy grail of speaking, and that's being funny, but on purpose, because some of y'all are funny not on purpose. And so I learned how to be an entertainer. And at the time I lived in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I watched all these comedians. How do they do their body language when they land at a humor point? I watched the speakers take us from we're just kind of enjoying it to we're filled with inspiration to then we're all crying. And I'll never forget this one guy. He was a ventriloquist, and we're laughing. And then at the end of his show, he tells a story about his grandpa putting a sock on, and that's where he fell in love with being a ventriloquist. And we're all crying our eyes out. I'm like, how'd they do this? And I became an entertainer. And it's not because I wanted to be an entertainer, it's because I wanted to be a more effective speaker. I became a comedy hypnotist. I performed around the world at seminars and events, conferences, things like that. Here's what I learned, y'all. When you use stories and entertainment, you can get people's attention, get your audience to like you, keep them riveted to you. You get invited back over and over and over and over. You get people to spend more money with you, and you create wow moments in your presentation. Who would like some or all of those? It's stories and entertainment, y'all. But it's not just funny. It's not that we're going to be funny for the sake of being funny. It's we're going to touch the heart. Well, why is that important? All buying decisions, all life changes, all changes are based on emotion, and then they're backed up with logic. Let me say it again. It's based in emotion first, then backed up with logic. If you go logic first, you'll never get them. So we have a formula I want to offer to you. It's the number of laughs times the number of feels. So laughs. How many times did they laugh during your presentation? Times feels. They get a tear in the eye, a lump in the throat, a thump in the chest. Number of laughs times feels equals the number of impacts you make. The number of laughs times feels equals the number of lives you change. And laughs times feels equals sales you make. So at the end of your presentation, you can count up how many times did they laugh? How many times were they inspired? Were they moved? Did they have a tear? And if this is flat, then the truth is you're really not impacting anybody. the truth is you're not going to make sales. But if you take them on a journey, you peak them, you crash them, you give an emotional journey, if you do that, then you're going to make impacts. And it's emotion. Motion is in there. If we can move them emotionally, we'll move them physically. And if we move them physically, we're going to move their pocketbook. And when they buy your program, you can make a massive impact in their lives. So y'all, if you're not doing the work to tell stories and be entertaining and touch them emotionally, just follow the formula. Count your laughs, count your feels, and that'll tell you how many impacts, how many lives change, and how many sales you're going to make. Is this landing for you guys? Cool. And some of you all it's like I don't want to be the bearer of bad tidings. I want to give you hope for the future and let you know what actually works. And if you start to watch all the best speakers, all the greatest coaches, all the top money earners, they all follow this formula. They all get the audience laughing and crying, and they make a ton of sales. Cool or cool? So let me share with you about the next part, which is compelling content. Now, let me demo this too. If I say to you guys, you know, I had a time in my life, I made no sales, and had a time I made a lot of sales, it's not very compelling, is it? No. So let me tell you a story, but before I do that, let me tell you about Carson Cooper. Carson works with a company called Genius Unlocked. He came to one of our trainings on delivery, and he learned how to tell stories. You know how a lot of coaching companies are doing challenges today to grow their business? The most they had ever made on a challenge was $60,000. They came, they learned how to tell stories, they learned how to take the audience on the journey. Their next challenge, they did $120,000. Who thinks that's pretty cool? Me too. So, in AI, anybody here worried about AI? Because all these people are like, oh, AIs can write courses, AIs are going to replace it. Y'all, AI can't look you in the eye. AI isn't funny. AI can't touch the heart. Only a human can. And if you're a coach who knows how to rock a stage, connect with your audience, and take them on a journey, you will never be replaced. AI will never replace you because AI can't add the human element of the journey. Is this landing for y'all? Cool. So let me tell you about compelling content, how I discovered this. So the first time I ever sold my own stuff from stage, I did, in about an hour and a half presentation, $98,000. Who can handle speaking for $98,000? Yes. So other times I sold zero. Oh, by the way, I didn't make $98,000 on that first time. When you're going to speak on a big, like 3-day event stage, you're probably going to pay a sponsorship fee, or you're going to do what's called a revenue split. And typically, if you sell on someone else's stage, you're going to do what's called a 50-50 split. They get half, you get half. So in that case, the promoter got $49,000. And I got $49,000. So probably not worth it, $49,000, right? I'm kidding. Who would speak for an hour and a half for 40? That's awesome, right? That's great money. So other times, though, I sold nothing. But selling nothing wasn't the worst part. See, I had to pay for travel and lodging, and back then I was selling like a home study kit, so I had to press and produce CDs and DVD. Everybody here old enough to remember what CDs are, right? Some of you watching online, a CD is like an MP3, but like on a disc. I was going to say on a record, but they wouldn't know what that is either. So I had to press those up, and if I didn't sell them, oh my gosh, I'm out that money, and I'm out traveling, I'm out lodging. But that wasn't the worst part, y'all. This was now back in 2004, and I didn't know what I was doing wrong. We didn't have the psychology and the understanding of audiences that we do today. But that wasn't the worst part. Remember how I said I got $49,000 and the promoter got $49,000? Well, promoters talk. So I just want you to imagine you rock a stage and you make, we'll just do round numbers, $50,000, the promoter makes $50,000. You're stoked and the promoter's super happy. Well, if that promoter goes to like a networking thing or a mastermind with other promoters are going to be like, hey, Bob, who do you know that's awesome? And Bob's going to be like, yo, I just had this speaker on. They made me $50,000. So Mary hires you says, hey, come on my stage, do your thing. We'll do a 50-50 split. If you go on Mary's stage and you bomb and make no sales, how is Mary going to feel? Mary's going to be pissed because Mary's going to be thinking, hey, you made Bob $50,000. I was expecting $50,000. You just cost me $50,000. And then what's Mary going to say to Bob? Bob, you told me the speaker was good. They sucked. They bombed. You cost me $50,000. So now Bob's pissed because Bob's got egg on his face and looks bad. Mary's pissed. And then what happens is you get blacklisted. And what that means is promoters will be like, do not have so-and-so on your stage. They suck. Besides the sales, y'all, if you speak and you don't move the audience, if you don't have a great time with the audience, if they don't love you, or worse, if it kind of depresses the emotions of the audience, it affects everyone else's sales. If you're ever going to host a 3-day event, make sure the first person that sells on your stage really sells well, even if it's like a $50 product, because if they don't sell well, it sets a tone of everyone selling bad. Is this making sense to y'all? Let me check in with my in-person people for you guys online. Is this making sense to y'all? Cool. So you've got to have the first person sell well so it sets a tone of selling well. So if you bomb, that promoter's probably going to sell a big coaching package. It's going to hurt their sales. Plus, people are going to be like, that event sucked. These speakers stunk. So it's going to affect how many people come to their future one. So it's going to cost you stages. But that wasn't the worst part. Thank God when I had a good day, it carried me through the bad days. This was the worst part. I spoke at an event, and I hadn't done well, and they had me come back, and I spoke again, and I bombed. And the promoter sent his assistant to take me to dinner. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe this guy's going to give me a pep talk. And it probably should have been a clue that the promoter didn't take me to dinner. He just sent his assistant to take me to dinner. And dinner was awkward, y'all. It was like, have you ever been to dinner with like someone's going to break up with someone? It stilted the whole dinner, and finally the check comes, and the promoter's assistant leans in, he looks at me and he goes, we'd like to invite you not to come back. Sorry if I hit the mic. How would you have felt in that moment? I thought to myself, that was the world's worst pep talk. Well, the pain of that moment, combined with this up and down, it just started to wear on me emotionally. And soon after that, I was creating my home study course on one-to-one sales. So I was immersed in one-to-one sales, and I'm learning language patterns and personality types and closing techniques. And then I'm binge watching. This is right when TED Talks were first coming out. And like, remember Simon Sinek's Start With Why and all that stuff? The Golden Circle was, and these TED Talks about how we have these invisible neural networks that connect us and how social media connects us. And then I don't think I've ever said this part publicly. I was listening to these dating CDs and they were talking about social positioning and group dynamics and how when people have like a better social positioning, they get more leverage in society. And I realized how that mapped over to sales. And God kind of put it on my heart, like, figure out a system. What am I doing wrong when I bomb? What am I doing right when I rock? What am I saying when I rock it out? What am I leaving it out when I bomb on stage? And here's what I learned from studying all of this and all this cutting edge stuff about social dynamics. What I learned is if you want to sell from stage, if you want to speak with the intention that at the end of your presentation, people buy your course, or they register for discovery call, or they buy a ticket to an event, or they opt in for a free report, whatever you want them to do at the end of your presentation. By the way, are pastors on stage at a church making a sale when they're not asking for money? Yes. They want their congregation to act and live a different way. So you as a coach, even if you're not selling something for money, if you're delivering your content, you still want people to make a new change, a new life change, a new decision. That's a sale. Does that make sense, y'all? And all this formula applies. So it's whether you're going for the sale financially or you're going for the life change sale, this all applies. So here's what I learned. If you want your audience to say yes, there's a series of psychological switches that you have to get on. So you can imagine it like this. If I want to call Robert on the phone, I've got to have his phone number. How many digits do I have to have? 10 digits. If I leave one digit out, am I going to reach Robert on the phone? Same thing with your audience. If you don't get every single psychological switch up, it doesn't work. Now let's suppose I have all 10 of his digits, but they're in the wrong order. Am I ever going to reach him? No way. The same with your audience. If you hit the psychological switches, but you don't do them in the right order, you're never going to reach your audience. So I created a template, and it's not you say these words, but it's you have conversations in a certain order, and what it does is it gets the switches in your audience up, and it gets the switches on in the right order, so at the end of your presentation, they're like, I want to buy your stuff. I want to use your stuff. I want to apply it to my life. And so have you ever noticed when you commit to something, you have a breakthrough, like God, the universe, whatever you believe in, rewards you? So I create this template, and I'm like, I need a place to try this out. And a client of mine, Charles, introduced me to this guy named Mike. And Mike and I start talking, and I just learned about sharing my why. And this was like 10 years ago. It was so weird to talk about your why back then. And I said, Mike, I got to tell you my why. And I told him my why, and he's like, me too. And he offers to put me on his big stage. He's a big stage in February, but he goes, here's the deal. I'm going to give you a tryout. I'm going to put you in front of my top 75 people. It's in Houston, Texas. You got to pay your own travel, your own lodging. You're not allowed to sell. And if they like you, I'll put you on my big stage. How many of you would take that? A tryout, pay your own money, your own lodging, no sales. I hope all your hands are going up on this, because no risk, no goodies. Big risk, big goodies. So Mike sends me a contract, and at the bottom of the contract, in all caps, it says no sales. I'm like, I got it. I show up for the presentation. Literally the last thing Mike says to me before he goes up to introduce me is he goes, remember, no sales. And I just remember this. I think when Mike introduced me and I came up on stage, he goes, remember, no sales. I'm like, I got it, Mike, no sales. So y'all, I use the compelling content. I use the template. I had the dynamic delivery, and the why stands for you. My mindset, my heart was in the right place, and I rocked it. I got the psychological switches up in the right order, and at the end of my presentation, I got a standing ovation, like a spontaneous ovation, and I was like, yes, the system works. And then Mike walks over to me and he goes, hey, let's sell your stuff. And I'm like, I thought I wasn't supposed to sell. And he goes, you rocked it. Let's sell your stuff. Y'all, I didn't bring product. I didn't bring order form. To this day, I don't know how we took orders. I don't know if people put their names on napkins or handed. I don't know how they did it. Here's what I do know. Think about how much money you made in the last year. What if you could do 25% of that in one presentation? Because that's what I did that day. That one presentation, not intending to sell, y'all, they didn't even know what they were buying. They didn't have it there. I just described it. No order forms. I did 25% of my previous year's income. So I'm like, this is awesome. So Mike's like, hey, let's sit down and talk. And Mike looks in. We sit down, and Mike leans in, and he goes, I'd like to invite you. I'm like, I thought I did good. And he goes, I'd like to invite you onto the big stage. I want you to speak to my group 4 times a year, and I'll pay you a monthly retainer to do it. Do you guys get that? I want you to imagine this. What would it do for your business if someone paid you to speak and sell your stuff? Would that be cool or would that be cool? 2 years ago, I had a digital marketing company. They teach people how to do Facebook ads and then webinars. You guys know that model, right? They paid me $35,000 to coach their people for a year, and I got to sell my stuff, and I did another $40,000 in sales. So I got paid $35,000 to coach and sell my stuff, and I made that's $75,000. Who thinks that's pretty cool? Y'all, this happens only when you rock a stage, though. So Mike puts me onto his big stage, and on his big stage following the system, I did enough sales to equal 50% of my previous year's income. So that means 2 presentations following the system I created, I did 75% of my previous year's income. Now here's what's important about this. I'm not special. The system is special. When you have a system to sell from stage, you're going to sell a lot more. Y'all, we were talking about this at lunch. Being able to be an educational speaker or a Toastmaster or a content delivery person or like doing corporate trainings does not prepare you to sell from stage. In fact, it can inhibit you. What goes in, it's called pumpers and dumpers. Pumpers know how to sell from stage, dumpers dump information. Being a really good dumper does not qualify you to be a pumper. Those terms don't sound great, do they? And that's what we call them in the industry. Y'all, it's kind of like, some people go, well, I'm comfortable on stage. I don't need training. Anybody here know how to jog? Anybody know here how to ride a bike? how to swim? Are you qualified to do an Ironman? The difference between jogging and swimming and biking and doing an Ironman is the difference between being okay on stage and selling from stage. It's a whole different animal, and there's so much psychology, and if you don't know it, everything that happened to me before I learned this is coming your way. But if you learn this, it's amazing what's coming your way. So you guys, I created this system, and then I started teaching people this system, and it's amazing the results of what are happening. So let me teach you a little bit about the psychology in the time I have. So in a presentation, there's 3 major parts. If you're taking notes, it's kind of deep. You want to get it. It's the beginning, the middle, and the end. I'm just kidding. It's the intro, the body, and the call to action. When you're picturing the intro, I want you to picture the font in red because the intro is about the heart. The body's black and white. It's your content. And the call to action is what we call the end. That's in green. It's about creating action. Most people focus on the body because it's what they know, it's what they do, it's what they coach on, and it's, frankly, you know it, you need to spend the least amount of your energy there. Where are you going to be most nervous in a presentation? When you take the stage and when you go for the offer. That's typically the times people are being most nervous. I maintain if you nail the intro, you've got it set. Now, when you take the stage, your audience has 4 questions. You really want to get these 4 because if you don't answer these, if you don't get people for the first 30 seconds to a minute, you've lost them for the rest of the presentation. So, number 1, they're asking, do I like this speaker? Number 2, does this presentation matter to me? Number 3, what qualifies this speaker to be here? And number 4, does this speaker care about me? So we're going to have 5 goals when we hit the stage. I call it RIATI: rapport, interest, authority, train, inspire. We want to get into a space of rapport. There's things you can do at a live event to create rapport before you hit the stage. Things you can do in virtual events to create rapport before you hit the stage. You want to have, one of the things I've noticed too many speakers do is called the curse of earnestness. They care, and they care so much that they care, and this message is so important that they talk like this and they put their audience to sleep. Y'all, one of the easiest things you can do is smile when you hit the stage. Let me see your smiles, guys. You gotta. And if you don't like your teeth, I don't care. Show your teeth because it's going to make you sales. You've got to get into a space of rapport, and you've got to let your audience know how much you love them, and they need to feel your heart. Second, interest. Too many people bury the lead. Have you guys ever been to a presentation and you don't know until like 30 minutes into the presentation why you're going to win from it? If you're selling from stage, and a lot of Toastmasters and keynotes teach, begin in the middle of your story, which is beautiful if you're doing a non-selling from stage piece. Like a TED Talk, it's totally appropriate. When you're going for a sale, you're dealing with busy people who have busy lives. They need to know why they're going to win from your presentation in the first 30 seconds or they're going to tune out. Does that make sense? So like for these talks, this is like a TED Talk. These talks, it's totally appropriate to begin in the middle. Like, so there I was, and you're telling a story. When you're going to speak on a conference and sell, though, you got to let the audience know, here's how you're going to win right away. Do you remember what I said at the beginning? Who wants to make a lot more sales? Who wants to have more influence, touch more lives? I did 96,000 in 90 minutes. That was my interest piece. Is this making sense to you guys? No or yes? Cool. Rapport, interest, authority. You've got to establish why you are qualified to be there and who you are. And then train and inspire. Anybody here want to avoid being a pushy salesperson? Anybody kind of like, you have an aversion to that? I see some nods back there. So here's how you do it. 1, train. When you tell your story, you want to give people the tools that allowed you to have success in your life. One of the things I shared earlier on today, do you recall this? If you empty your pockets into your mind will always fill your pockets. I share that because that's one of the life lessons that has allowed me to win. And so you want to train your audience and give to them the life lessons that have allowed you to win. And then you want to inspire. And here's what I mean by that. If you go for the sale and you use language patterns or limiters like limited time, limited availability, price reductions, and language patterns like embedded commands, and people are not inspired, it's a pushy salesperson just going for the sale. On the other hand, if you get people inspired, so they're saying to themselves, I can do this, I see myself in it, this is worth it, I want to be around these people. If you call them to something bigger, if you inspire them to something bigger, in the space of inspiration, your audience will be like, I can do this. I want to do this. How do I get there? They're looking for an answer on how to get there because they're inspired. And in the space of inspiration, the sale is natural. So if you seek to inspire them rather than just close a deal, you're going to make more sales. Also, have people ever been burned by coaching programs? Are people hesitant because there's other coaches out there that don't care as much as we do? Yes. So in the space of inspiration, language patterns and limiters and special offers are appropriate and effective because it just gives people that last little nudge to get over the finish line and buy your course. So in the space of inspiration, all of that stuff is authentic and of service to your audience. But if there's no inspiration, forget it. The sale is just a pushy salesperson. Is this valuable so far, what I'm teaching y'all? Cool. So this is what Greg from Houston told me. So remember that big stage? Remember I told you I did a $500,000 presentation? It didn't all come at once. Here's what's better than I believe, than it all coming at once. And here's what I believe for all of you. You're one stage away. You are one stage away from becoming who you want to be, making the impact you want to make, and touching the lives you want to make. You're one stage away from your business taking off. So here's what happened. Remember I got the tryout with Mike. I rocked the tryout. He puts me on his big stage. So I did 50% of my previous year's income on that one presentation. Here's what's more important. I got 14 more stages out of that one presentation. You're one stage away. When you rock one stage, you're going to get a bunch more stages. And I got invited back 6 more years. You're one stage away. When you rock one stage, you rock one stage, your business can be made for the next year. And if your business is made for the next year, it can be made for the next 10 years. You're just one stage away from everything taking off. But you got to do the work to be ready for that one stage. You got to have the compelling content, the dynamic delivery, and I'll talk more about the you in a second. So one of those stages, a guy named Greg Bryan flew me to Houston, Texas, and he paid my travel, he paid my hotel, he paid me a speaker fee, and I got to sell my home study kit on sales. He had me talk to a bunch of realtors. And I'm hanging out with him after the event, and Greg says, Jase, did I ever tell you what I said the first time I saw you speak? I said, no idea. He saw me at that big stage, my big tryout, not my tryout, but the big stage after that. And he says, 10 minutes in your presentation, I looked up at you, and I leaned over to my business manager, Troy, and I said, I don't know what this guy's selling, but whatever it is, we're buying. Who would like it if people wanted to buy from you 10 minutes in your presentation? When you nail your intro, you got them. Here's what I maintain, y'all. Too many people think, oh, you got to turn up the pressure on the close. If you nail your intro, you got them. Rapport, interest, authority, train, inspire. Cool or cool? So the formula, compelling content, dynamic delivery in you. Of all of those, you are most important. Here's why. I'm going to give you a couple reasons. One, what's in you is magnified on stage. And the bigger the stage, the bigger the magnification. So another way to put it that's not as sweet, your insecurities are magnified on stage. Cameras magnify it a lot. So if there's any part of you that doubts like who you are or doubts the value you've got, it's going to turn up and it's going to magnify it. Here's a subset of that. If something happened to you that morning on your way to speak and you don't clear it out, it's going to show up on stage. If something happened to you when you were 4 years old and you haven't dealt with it, it's going to show up on stage. If you haven't done the inner work to get your value, you're going to sabotage sales. Y'all, you're not worth what you're paid what you're worth. And if you've never made $100,000 in a day and you don't do the work to go inside and you are a $100,000 speaker, you are a $1 million speaker. I'm a multi-million-dollar speaker. If we don't do that work first, we'll kill the money that could be out there. I remember before I learned this stuff, I was in front of 300 people. Man, they loved me. But my internal programming back then, my dad was super critical, was to see all the people that were unhappy with me. So instead of focusing on the 60 people that were like this, I was focused on the 30 that were like this. By the way, the truth is, the people like this, you don't know what they think. Some people just have RBF, right? Like resting face, resting bad face. That's not the real word. And a lot of times these people, that's just how they look. And they'll be the first ones to buy. But only if you give them the space to. If you did what I used to do, and I'm like, holding the space that they're negative, then it creates them to be negative. Your audience shows up in your expectation for your audience. So what's in you is magnified. Second thing, please memorize this, write this down, tattoo it on your arm. Not maybe. Okay, first person to tattoo it and send me a picture, I will send you $100. How you buy is how you sell. How you buy is how you sell. What do I mean by that? A couple things. Anyone here ever say, I got to think about it? Like you have a big purchase you want to make, like, oh, I got to think about it. What do people say to you when they don't buy? I got to think about it. If you're someone who says, I can't afford it, you will manifest people who can't afford it. But let me take it to you more on the court. So there's 4 major personality types. If you study like any personality model, there's 4 major ones, right? So there's people who just, they want results. Like, give me the result, give it to me fast. There's people who just want to play, they want to have fun. There's people who just want everybody to get along. And then there's people who want details, right? So let me go with the detail person. So you become more, so the way I picture it, picture the 4 corners and a speaker's here, but there's pressure, the pressure being on stage, and it pushes them more into the corner they naturally are. So detail people, when they're making my detail people in the room, when you're making a buying decision, what do you like? Details. So if you're going to sell, what are you going to give people? Details. Like it's not hard to comprehend this. It's easy, right? But you just fried out the other 75% of the room. Plus, you're giving people details, which requires people to think, and process. And people who like details typically aren't fast decision makers, so it totally slows down the buying process. Whereas these people are like, I want results, I want it now. They close hard, they close fast, they buy fast, they close fast, but they kind of bully people into buying, and they get tons of refunds later. And then the passionates just get, and they have no structure, and they're all over the place, and like the audience is like, what the heck are you talking about? And then these people are like, I just want them to choose it on their own, and I don't want to be a hard closer, and oh, I just want us all to hug, and they make no freaking sales. Is this landing for y'all? So who I want to invite you to be, there's a phrase I learned from my first mentor, powerful people make decisions quickly. Got to start saying things to yourself like, I can afford anything that moves my life and business forward. Take everything into account and buy fast. Here's the proof of that. I was in, Matt Basak, I mentioned him earlier. I was in a mastermind with Matt. And Matt's peer group, do you guys know ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson? Like $100 million company, whatever it is. Like he's in a mastermind with Matt. And I was in Matt's mastermind. I'm talking about how people buy is how they sell. And I asked everyone at Matt's mastermind, and these people have like $1 million businesses, most of them. I said, how many of you, when someone sells something at an event, you're the first at the table? Every hand went up. So Matt, who was leading that mastermind, goes to his mastermind with Russell Brunson and a bunch of guys who are making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. And he says, how many of you, when there's a sale at an event, are the first at the table? And every hand went up. Success leaves clues, you guys. They're not the first to buy because they have money. They have money because they're the first to buy what will move their life forward, and they're the first to apply what will move their life forward. When I pivoted from doing the sales training to the speaker training, I'll never forget, I'm speaking, so that same stage I was invited back 6 more years. A few years later, I saw they needed speaker training. So I printed up 5 forms. I thought if I get 5 sales, this would be great. And I sold the speaker training for $1,000. 15 people came over to buy it when I was done. Like 20% of the room. I was so happy. And I looked at the 15 later, and they were all the top money earners. And in this community, they would promote the top money earners to be coaches for the rest. And they were all the coaches. And I thought, oh, well, they just bought because they have the money. But then it hit me as I got to know them. They always said yes fast, because if they saw it could improve their life and business, they bought it fast and they applied it fast. And that's why they made so much money. Is this landing for y'all? And I know for some of y'all who are thinker brains, you're like, oh, this is uncomfortable. I would rather you be uncomfortable and learn how to buy fast so you can sell fast, because how you buy is how you sell. Say it again, how you buy is how you sell. If you're super trepidatious, Let's take it to handling objections. Does anyone ever hear like, I don't have the time, I don't have the money? Well, if you allow yourself to say, I don't have the money, what excuse do you have to accept? I don't have the money. And you have to accept it. Why? Because you accept it from yourself. But when you learn how to say, I can afford anything that moves my business and life forward, and you learn how, guys, I bought so many coaching programs that I couldn't afford at the time. I joined one that was multi-thousands of dollars a month. My very next event, we did our highest sales ever. And I created a coaching program called Black Belt Speaker Training that's just awesome. But if I didn't have to pay for that first coaching program I bought, I probably wouldn't have made those sales. Actually, I'm sure I wouldn't have. So you guys, when you have to figure it out, you'll figure it out. And then what happens is when you get a breakthrough with being able to afford things, the next time someone says, I can't afford it, you could look at them and say, yes, you can. I afforded it. Let me show you how you can have a breakthrough with this. Is this landing for y'all? And then the final part of you is I want to invite you to be of service. Now, I'm talking a lot about sales, so this could seem highly contradictory, but it's kind of this weird paradoxical game you got to play. Have you ever heard some people say, oh, don't give them too much, they won't buy? Y'all ever heard like speaker trainers say that? If you give them too much, they're not. If you think about everything you have to teach, like if it's like this much info, how much can you give them in an hour? Like this? Here's what I believe. If you will give them your absolute best stuff in your hour, you'll make more sales. And if you focus on serving people instead of selling people, you're going to make more sales. Now, you want to serve with an intention to sell. And yet my prayer every time I speak is, God, may their life be better forever because I was here, whether they buy from me or not. So what I want to invite you to do is to focus and learn how to write your content, learn how to deliver, have a heart of service that you're going to give it your best no matter what. Guys, if there's 2 people in the room or 200 people in the room or 2,000, give it your best. Love on these people. Serve these people. And if you could focus on serving, then you're going to make way more sales. Capiche? If you don't know what that is, it's Italian for capiche. So, Carson, so part of we do this breakthrough event called Dynamic Life. And it's really about dealing with our insecurities, leaving them behind, and learning how to say yes in the face of fear, and learning how to be your best on stage. Remember Carson that I mentioned? He came to our program about delivery, doubled the sales for his challenge. Then he came to our breakthrough event, and at the breakthrough event, he really stepped into his power and going for it, and like really authentically selling what he wanted to sell. Partner Jen came also, his business partner, and they created a $100,000 program. Their next event, so that from the challenge, they would sell people into an event. They had 40 people total, 20 in the room, 20 online. The most they'd ever done in sales was like $600,000. Their next event, after doing the internal work, the you work, they did $1.1 million in sales. Is that cool, y'all, or is that cool? The you pays off. So I want to share with you a couple stories about people I've worked with. Natalie Lavelock I met, and before we worked together, she had no sales. Her very first speaking gig after working with me, she did $20,000 in sales. Who could handle 20 grand in sales? So Natalie, she's been with me 3 years. Her first year, she doubled her income. Second year, doubled her income. Third year, she tripled her income. I tell you that to tell you this story, because people ask me, does this stuff work live? Does it work on Zoom? Does this stuff map? When COVID happened, I stopped everything. Anybody else kind of shut down during COVID? So my whole business was predicated, I would speak at a live event, I would sell tickets to a live event, where I would sell my coaching that was delivered over live events. So when COVID happened, I had to stop everything because I couldn't speak anywhere and there was no places for my clients to speak. So Natalie, one of my clients, calls me up. She's like, Jase, and this was early in COVID, before the whole Zoom thing had become, you guys remember that, right? Before Zoom was a thing. And she's like, Jase, I just spoke. I did $7,000 in sales. They paid in full within 4 days. Who could handle $7,000 in sales collected in 4 days from 1 hour? I'm like, that's freaking awesome. Let me get on stage. So I called up a woman that I knew could get me on stage. I got on a Zoom with 48 people. Do y'all think you could get on a stage with 48 people? A Zoom, a conference, or whatever. I'll never forget, 48 people. I followed the system, content delivery you. 19 people signed up for a sales call. I made 8 sales. I did $38,000 in revenue from one speech. I'm like, this is awesome. Let me do it again. Speech 1, and I got my numbers. If I look down, I'm looking at my numbers. Speech 1, 29,000. Speech 2, 64,000. Speech 3, 40,000. Speech 4, 32,000. Speech 5, 11,000. I was pissed at speech 5. I'm like, what? Only 11,000? And I was like, dude, you're getting spoiled. Just for the record, I'm grateful for a penny in sales, okay? Please keep them coming, God. Speech 6, 50,000. 6 speeches, $228,000 in revenue, $38,000 from per speech. Who could handle, what would that do for you? $38,000 per speech. And then I'm like, all right, let me start doing virtual events. Event 1, like we sold tickets, $97 tickets, did a 3-day event. For those of you thinking about doing events, by the way, I really want to encourage you, learn how to rock a stage and learn how to sell in an hour before you go to the 3 days. I've seen too many people lose money on 3 days. Learn how to do the hour, then go to the 3 days. So we went to the 3 days. I was like, this works. Let's go to 3 days. Event 1, $278,000. Event 2, $230,000. Event 3, $391,000. Event 4, $186,000. 4 events, $1.087 million in sales, $271,000 per event. Who thinks that's pretty cool? I do. It's awesome. See, all this stuff works. And so then some clients said, hey, teach us how to do sales. They own a digital marketing company, Jess and Aaron. They went from never having done an event to in 18 months, $2.3 million in sales. This stuff works if you follow it. So you guys ready to grow your business? I want to encourage you, it's time to step up. And I want to wrap this with a poem. It's from, have you all ever heard of Stephen Pressfield? He wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. So this is a poem called The Artist's Life, and it's from The War of Art, not The Art of War. Totally different book. So from The War of Art. Are you a born writer? Were you put on earth to be a painter, a scientist, or an apostle of peace? And I'll add in, do you feel the tug on your heart to speak? Were you meant to be a coach? Were you meant to sell a program? Were you meant to change lives through the hard times you've been through? In the end, the question can only be answered by action. Do it or don't do it. It may help to think of it this way. If you were meant to cure cancer or write a symphony or crack cold fusion and you don't do it, you not only hurt yourself, even destroy yourself. You hurt your children, you hurt the planet, you hurt me. You shame the angels who watch over you, and you spite the Almighty who created you and only you with your unique gifts for the sole purpose of moving the human race 1 millimeter along its path back to God. Creative work, and I say being a coach, being a speaker, creative work is not a selfish act or a bid for attention on the part of the actor. It's a gift to the world and every being in it. So don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got. I love you guys. Thanks, Action Era.